Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Dr. Cabral here. We have a fantastic special talk today, what it's really like, the real experience of being on anti-amyloid therapies. We have an amazing couple joining us who's been on this journey for 2 years with these medications. They provide some insider wisdom about the process for them to get on these drugs and their experience interacting with the healthcare system and how it's affected their relationship in their lives. This is a really great one if you're thinking about these anti-amyloid treatments for you and or your loved ones. Feel free to check out our website, mybrainlove.com. Email me anytime, Dr. Cabral at mybrainlove.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Brain Love Community. We're also on Facebook. So let's jump in. Thank you again for joining. I'm Dr. Dani Cabral. I'm an Alzheimer's specialist, neurologist, and psychiatrist, founder and medical director of Brain Love, and have started doing a webinar series, webinars almost every week, and just trying to make this confusing world of Alzheimer's disease, demystify it, make it accessible, especially to individuals and families and communities to get what they need, given the many advances that we're having. And today, so excited and honored to have Leonard and Mark here. Today, we're talking about what it's really like. So a patient and spouse journey through anti-amyloid treatments. And I met Leonard and Mark at an Alzheimer's Association advocacy event at the State House here a few months ago and learned about Leonard having been on the anti-amyloid treatment, lecanemab, for a long time now, one of the early adopters, truly, once it was approved, and was so impressed by all of the work you're doing, getting out there, advocating, and showing people like the full lives you can lead with these diseases, like Alzheimer's and related diseases, and then how important it is to get involved in advocacy. So that's a whole other topic of conversation. And what I've learned quickly is that Leonard and Mark have tons of wisdom on so many things. So this discussion is just one, and I hope to have them back many times to talk about a variety of things. I'd like to just do a little brief introduction about what I know, and then we'll jump into questions. So we have Leonard on the right. So 9 years old, grew up in Arizona, a native, one of the few. I was a florist for over 20 years and was actively involved and loved doing this, and including coordinating events, design classes, hosting live presentations. He and Mark have been together for 23 years, and Leonard has all sorts of activities and hobbies, indoors, outdoors, RV, camping, travel, gardening, spending time with family. We just learned we all love going to galas. And then we have Mark, who grew up in Phoenix, has an interesting story, a career path, going from, this is fascinating, early work in mental health as a direct care provider, and then as an administrator in the public health sector, and then switched to financial services and ended up in technology administration services. Wow. So you have a lot of interest. I'm sure that's all helping with your life these days. And then he had an early retirement, luckily at 57, which worked out because of the timing of Leonard's diagnosis. So Mark has lots of hobbies as well, including refurbishing and making homes out of neglected houses. I love that. Traveling, and with that, really wanting to explore the local life, and of course, spending time with friends and family. Leonard was diagnosed in 2019 and then started treatment with lecanemab in 2023. I'll just maybe start by asking about, since this is how we met, just specifically about your advocacy efforts, all of the stuff you're doing out there, and how that's impacted your life, maybe in ways that you didn't even expect.
Well, when Leonard first got diagnosed, he didn't want to sit around and do nothing, and he really wanted to he told me, I want to make a difference. I don't want to just wither away in a corner. So, and COVID hit. So Zoom was our best friend, and what we found a lot of was support groups, education, that type of stuff online, life enrichment stuff. So that's really how it started. And because we were showing up, and the COVID restrictions let up, we got involved with the Alzheimer's Association, and in turn got into advocacy at the state and national level. And we try, and one of our, my first encounter with support services was through a local organization here in Phoenix. And we remain loyal to that group to this day. It's kind of, I talk about like going home. It's kind of because it was the first contact we make sure we stay with those folks. That's a duet.
Yeah.
A duet, Partners in Health and Aging. Oh, great.
Yeah, yeah. And we've really built a family. It's not only turned into, it sounds like we're so altruistic and giving and advocating. This sounds really clunky, but there's a real selfish component to it because it gives us social activities, it gives us socialization, it gives us variety in the people we meet and huge personal support. So that's really kind of how it started. It was just an evolution and it turned into, and I'm sure other people have had this, a lot of people and even some family kind of drifted away from us.
I think our
immediate family did pretty good, but
there was a lot of kind of like if they weren't educated on it or anything like that, they just didn't know how to I guess get approach me.
Yeah.
A lot of times, do we talk to him slow? We do this or that. No, you just treat him like you would regularly treat him, and I'm able to lead it. It's like, can we just maybe, go a little slower here? And they respect that.
Yeah.
So I always have my voice being heard in conversations. I'm not one of those that is just going to sit in the corner and watch everything go by. I always try to, and everyone, I think my biggest thing was that I just put myself out there. I just figured, this is what I got. I'm gonna get myself educated about it and learn as much and do as much as I can. And Mark just jumped right in with it, and it was like, and then I wasn't ashamed to tell everybody what I got. It's not a disease. Well, it is a disease, but it's not like
it's not contagious.
It's not contagious. You don't have to be weary of me and stuff like that. Because
yeah,
I make myself, well, I probably do it on my own. I make myself known.
Well, he's always, if anybody's known Leonard, he's always been the social one. We would go to a wedding and he's the one out dancing with everybody while I'm sitting in the back corner table talking to one person one-on-one. So that's just who he is.
Well, thank you for your courage and putting yourself out there and showing that, this disease doesn't define who you are. That's the only way we're going to change this. I think stigma is more people open up like that. And so maybe we could segue to when you heard about these new anti-amyloid treatments a long time ago. Were you just all for it? You were like, let's do whatever we can? Or did you have certain fears or hesitancies? Do you recall?
Well, I know Mark did all of his footwork on understanding what the side effects were, what is going to happen, what may happen. But then I also started doing some research on. So we're gonna do the medicines, but what can I do as an individual to make the medicine work to its full effect? So I started getting involved with information about the rest, the eating, and all that. So I brought those two together, and I think it's, as far as I know, I'm not afraid of going places, seeing things. I'm very patient because people are patient with me. Well, not with him though.
But really what happened was that got approved in January, and we were with the Alzheimer's Association at their Alzheimer's Impact Movement in DC, that convention they do every year. And so Leqembi was approved, but I hadn't really processed that through, but it was really moving for me because that movement that year was all about, and I keep saying Leqembi because it's just easier for me to remember. It was about that it was FDA approved. It was the first drug that CMS refused to cover in the history of CMS. Any FDA approved drug would be covered. And so the whole effort that year was about our voices sharing with our national legislators that help us tell CMS to get back in their lane. They're not the medical experts, they're the money people. So with that, it really triggered. It was a real emotional week for me because it's like, why are we just sitting here? So I came home and we happened to have an appointment shortly thereafter with Leonard's neurologist, and it it really triggered me that we just need to figure out a way to pay for it until CMS is going to pick up the coverage on it. And so that's really what did it for us as far as why would we consider this? And then with that, I mean, tons of like Dr. Google, and I know you all hate hearing about Dr. Google, but he or she is out there. But it was a real useful tool because it helped me understand about the ARIA, the possibility about death, and maybe and I'm sure there's experts here, but maybe one death that they could attribute to the clinical trials. So that percentage was really low. How are they going to monitor for the ARIA or any kind of side effects? And so those were the questions that I went in with when we initially made that request of could Leonard be the candidate for this?
And so I recall you said your career, I guess the second part of your career was like in like mitigating risks for your company or something like that, which made me think about almost like an air traffic controller, like the worst case scenarios are like what your job is like considering those. So I'm curious if that was a help or a hindrance that's your like my approach.
What's actually, yeah, I remember asking Dr. Weidman, so what happens if he's got headaches? What happens if, he falls down and how do you fix that? I wanted to know what's the backup plan if something goes sideways. And so I got the information I needed that really you just stop the infusions, you monitor real closely, and if something gets improbably worse, then we can do some interventions. But realistically, it's as easy as stopping the medication until they can reassess. So that was a huge relief for me.
Great. So sounds like you were both able to rationalize the ARIA and look at the actual like data and the risks as opposed to like this, oh my gosh, brain bleeds, brain swell, because many patients feel understandably like here brain bleeds and they're like, heck no, like I'm not going there, but it's not like everybody gets those, and those who get them, it's usually asymptomatic and manageable. So it sounds like you both could like absorb that.
Well, and understanding that it wasn't like a brain bleed when a lay person like me thinks of a brain bleed, they're tiny little micro bleeds that may or may not have an impact.
Yeah, so it sounds like you felt supported and informed along the way, or at least you could get your questions answered.
Yeah,
which is great. So maybe you could share then what you've done. So you're on Leqembi, so that's every 2-week infusion. So that's a big commitment. And so you knew that going into it, and I'm sure I know you're very busy and I know you love to travel. So how have you fit that into your life?
Has it been a problem?
No, I mean, we know when it's coming up. So our lives have kind of like evolved around that, which is very important because that's to me, that's my number one important thing to do. There was only probably since I've been on the Leqembi, I think there was a fun episode where you weren't able to get it, and that's when Sierra took me. We had somebody else take me.
And realistically, we've been able to schedule around it. Maybe we have to bump it out an extra day. It's not been that difficult.
Yeah, we've been right on track on it.
Yeah,
we've been right on track, and because that to me, if Mark has something really, really important to do, we're gonna manage to get somebody else to take me, because that is like the number one important thing for me, and Mark's got a lot of important things for him that I don't want him to miss either. But we seem to be coasting really good.
It really hasn't been a problem as far as scheduling. I mean, it is it does every 2 weeks is not ideal, and there's stuff in the pipeline, I think, in clinical trials, which could change all that for us. And at this point, we may be going to monthly infusions, which would be great. But realistically, it's not that horrible. I love sharing that we've heard of somebody that actually they're snowbirds, and so come summertime they go back they go back wherever home is, and they have the capacity to actually fly in for their infusions every 2 weeks, or they were. So that's kind of like, you know what? If somebody can fly back here every 2 weeks for an infusion, we can certainly make it ourselves.
Yeah. So you must continue to see the value of doing this in your lives and to dedicate that time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we were nervous. I mean, but part of it is that as far as like the monitoring and stuff, are you going to ask that question? Do you want me to go there?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So and I'm going to get it all mumbled up, but I think it was like after the first or second infusion, had to get another MRI. And then shortly, it was like maybe the next month or 2 months, another MRI. So there was like this intense monitoring for any of the microbleeds and that type of stuff. As well, to this day, before every infusion, we get a phone call from the infusion center and they go through the questionnaires of have there been any falls, any hospitalizations, any. So, I mean, we have this like also this other screens. They seem to keep, it feels like they've got a pretty tight leash on us to
Yeah.
monitor for any side effects, which is a huge relief.
And
Good.
drinking a lot of water really helps.
Oh, for the infusions.
For the infusion.
Oh, good. And so when you say it helps, it just you feel better or what?
It's easier to find a vein.
Yeah.
Which are
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, especially in summer in Arizona.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you mentioned when we talked previously that you have developed a really great rapport with the infusion nurses and the center. And I'm sure, Leonard, I could see like you being famous, like when you walk in there, so.
Yeah, well, it's a good, I mean, it's a good group. It's a good group. And Karen, yeah. And then there hasn't been any fear for me. There hasn't been any, it's just become part of my core right now. This is what I'm doing. And I'm just and I want to be responsible for it. I want to make sure that I do everything that I'm supposed to do in order to make it all work the way it's supposed to work.
And part of it is that personal relationship with the infusion nurse is huge.
It is huge.
Because she can read both of us, whether we're having a good day or a bad day, and she's a friend, not just an infusion nurse. She's a friend that really wants to know how we're doing and what's going on outside of the clinical side of stuff. And so that's been it's something that you actually seem to always look forward to. And they have candy. Leonard loves his candy.
And my sticker.
Yeah, now they have little stickers.
I've always thought that would be a good addition.
Yeah.
Adult stickers. Like who doesn't love getting stickers?
I match it to my outfit and I put it on here. Like, what is it today?
That's great.
That relationship has been really key. And actually, she's no longer at that infusions, or she's no longer with the company. And so we've been checking out if we can transfer to a different infusion place that's closer, because we literally drive like 40 minutes each direction to go to this one. And as long as that infusion nurse was there, it was like no big deal. Since she's gone, and they're kind of running through different nurses and stuff trying to backfill that. So that's kind of changed the dynamic out there for us. But other than that, we're still going.
Yeah. We're not going to miss any of those appointments.
Yeah.
No.
In terms of, so the ARIA risk, we know, and I think even back then we knew it's highest like in the first 6 months. So I'm curious, though, you're getting called every 2 weeks. Like, do you have headache? Do you have vision changes? Do you have, like, would you ever throughout the beginning or at any time, like if you got a little twinge of a headache, were you like, oh my gosh, could this be ARIA? Like, did you have any of that reaction?
I'm the paranoid one, so yes. If he said he had a headache or something, I would keep an eye on that. And if it was like more than half the day or something, then I would take notice of it and get a Tylenol in him and stuff. And and I don't think it ever happened.
It hasn't.
But if there was ever a question for me, I would drop a note to the doctor, his neurologist, and say, hey, this is going on. Don't know if it means anything. And just so that there was an awareness. I wasn't terrified, but at least I knew somebody professionally knew about it. And if it continued or if there was another episode, if you will, it would, at least I documented.
Yeah, great. I guess there always has to be one paranoid partner in the couple. Like that's just, so, and then would you share, did you experience ARIA? Did you have to go through any of that?
You know,
is that anything to do with like, remember when we went to the airport and I kind of had that panic attack or something? No, nothing like that. Okay.
No, he gets he'll get spike in anxiety stuff and overstimulation. But as far as ARIA or he's knock on wood.
Yeah.
Not any of that. So it's been really nice. I mean, even to the point where, like the falls or that type of stuff, he'll, for some reason around the the side of his bed, he'll catch his knee on the footboard. And so I was like reporting that to the doctor that, he's banging his leg every so often, just in case it was.
Yeah.
He never fell, but yeah.
So no side effects really that you.
None.
No.
Well, that's great.
The first infusion, I think you ran, and it was all expected. We were forewarned about that. I think he got a little fever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
He was lethargic, just not feeling great. Kind of like after maybe a flu shot or something,
Yeah.
a feeling.
Yeah.
But we were forewarned about that. And I think it was just the first infusion you had that.
And then ever since then, I mean, drinking the water, eating healthy, and all that other stuff that I
They do.
that I like really want to make it. I want to make it work. I don't want to rely on it as being the miracle thing, because
Hmm.
it's a me with it.
Hmm.
It's going to make it work really good.
Great attitude. Great. So we call that an infusion related reaction. And so we know that's common, especially before the very first infusion is often when it happens, or with the first few infusions, and you had a mild, sounds like, reaction and everything went fine. So that's great. So how's it been for you in terms of, benefits or not, cognitively, functionally? How do you feel like is the drug helping you?
I say it's helping me 100%. I really, I mean, we have a group and we call ourselves the Village, and we had a dinner last night, and I was able to socialize with everyone, greet them and everything, and everybody was having a good time. I was able to have some conversation with the people, and it's a safe place, and I go with my family, and I go with Mark's family, and everything's real comfortable. So, but I know that I can still I'm not gonna put myself in the corner and hide. I'm gonna just kind of like, I'm living, and I really mean this, I'm living my best life. And I know it has a lot to do with the Leqembi and all these other features, all these other things that I incorporated in my life. And I think that's what's keeping me going.
And then I look at it from, I think it is working. I mean, good
Yeah.
grief. He was diagnosed at 54. So we're 5 years in. And my understanding and my experience with the people that we've been associated with seems like the younger folks decline much more quickly. And I look at Leonard and I can get a little tearful because he's doing great at 5 years. It's crazy. So I see that as a huge win. And then when I look at the empirical stuff, as far as like the MOCA and the MMSE and that type of stuff, we just were in last month, and apparently like he's holding steady from a year ago even. To me, I see things and I wonder, is it progressing and that type of stuff. But according to the numbers, he seems to be holding steady, which is remarkable to me. Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's working too.
Great. I just wanted to reiterate, Leonard, what you said about you feel like you're living your best life. It seems like you are able to hold both you have Alzheimer's disease and you don't want it, but you have it and this is your life and you're doing everything you can. So you have this like self-agency, potency to like step up, show up, take up space, make your voice heard, and people that, are drawn to you, and those that maybe are fearful of the disease and run away, like then they'll do that and they don't get to benefit from learning from you and being in both of your presence. So I just want to applaud that courage. And
oh gosh, thank you. That's a huge compliment from you.
And I just think like people, like the world needs to hear that message more, a lot more. And so just want to mention to the attendees, feel free to put questions in the Q&A or the chat. We did get one from Carly, who I think it sounds like both of you may know. So she asked, have you two found any groups or forums to speak with others who are also navigating the Leqembi or the anti-amyloid treatment journey? Do you have others you can consult with or compare experiences?
We know of one other person, and he's been in clinical trials. We saw him at the consortium Saturday. And he's on the clinical trial right now for the self-injection stuff.
Okay.
And realistically, we kind of talk about the path and what's been going on. And I think he started earlier than Leonard did into the disease. And so we're able to kind of connect on that level. But then really very quickly, the conversation turns into, so what's going on? What are you doing? What are your plans? And so it's more of being able to have those conversations versus because the Lakembe journey for both you and him a real positive experience, and it's kind of secondary at this point because they've both been doing it for a couple of years now. So it's not like that's the forefront, but early on it was like, how much are you on, and how often are you
Well, they wanted to monitor it closely.
So Carly, I mean, we don't run into a lot of people that are actively receiving the anti-amyloid. So we're kind of rare out there still, I think.
It's a growing group. I think that Carly brings up a huge opportunity, and it's sort of like what I think you're demonstrating is that this is just one small part of your life, and then the conversation moves into like, what are you up to? What are your travels coming up? How's who, everything else. And so, but maybe I could see for people like mentoring or like guiding people who are interested or early on and worried, and like that could be like a huge opportunity. Something I'll put on my to-do list to try to, help create something. And great. So I wanted to jump back to that point, important point that you were diagnosed. I mean, you were early onset Alzheimer's disease, diagnosed at 54, and early onset, for those listeners who don't know, is when you start having symptoms before 65. And so from what you mentioned to me before, with your diagnosis, there was a delay, which you feel is because people, or maybe you were told like, you're too young, this can't be Alzheimer's. And so
it was stress,
everything else. And so that's such an important thing for people to know, that you can be, 54 and younger. And I'm curious, just in general, advice you would give to healthcare providers, doctors, primary care providers, on anything, given this journey you've been on. That's a broad question.
What I would say is, just because of the age factor, if they have the what is that word? If they have what is going on, and it's associated with the way that the okay, I lost my little
To get diagnosed.
Would be like anything else with anyone that has cancer or any other kind of diseases, or help me with the word. Just give me a word.
Not sure where you're going.
Okay. So anyways, it's better to know what you're going through, and you describe it the way you feel like you need to describe it as. Then you can start figuring out, okay, what is this? Why is it happening? To speak of it and to share it with other people, you're going to get more information, as we are with you, to know that there is somewhere in, and they're going to be able to pinpoint what the problem is. Maybe it might be cancer, maybe it might be Alzheimer's, it might be whatever it is. So with your information that you give and the information that the doctors and the people that know all about the medical industry share, and I think you don't just sit on it and just say, oh, it must be stress, or oh, it must be, maybe they're not eating good. Well, if you feel like there's something out there that is really having a weight on you, you should go out there and find out, why is this happening?
And it's that advocacy part of it, pushing somebody. I mean, I pissed off this PCP I don't know how many times because I started showing up to say this isn't right. This is, this is more than, this isn't stress. But it took years. And I really did piss him off. because I kept showing up with them. And it took, and I think what's interesting is that I hear that it's kind of that feeling fuzzy, feeling foggy, being unsure of what is happening. I don't know how many people have said they thought they had a brain tumor right along with Leonard.
Yeah.
So there's like some key stuff that would be nice for the medical community at large to have an awareness of. Even his first neurologist told him it was stress, and it took me a year of just squawking at him after 3 appointments to finally get a referral for a neuropsych because he just thought it was stress. So that was really challenging. And I'll get on my soapbox and people know I do this, but it's like and it must be the way that the data is collected or is available through like Medicare or something. But like even the numbers that the Alzheimer's Association puts out, it's always 65 and above. So Leonard's in those numbers, and we all know that. So what are we missing as far as people's focus at 65 or older? But happily, the FDA approval of the blood tests as being an augmentation to some preliminary testing is really kind of exciting because had that been available 10 years ago, I would have been demanding do the blood test and let's screen and see what that looks like because maybe that would have opened the door. So I think we're at a point that hopefully maybe the earlier diagnosis will start happening and you won't waste 4 years fighting to get clarity on what's going on. And I'll get off the soapbox. Sorry about that.
I mean, I love the soapbox. I have the same.
There's so much information thrown out and to come back with, yeah.
Well, you wonder, I mean, I feel like for some healthcare providers, it's their own discomfort with if the patient does have, say, early onset Alzheimer's disease, they feel like they don't know really what to do with that. They don't have the time. And a lot of that is the system still doesn't provide like holistic support readily, but that's changing from what I see. And I wonder if you've noticed in the years now that you've been on this journey, like a change in the hopefulness or the energy.
What do you think?
Well, I'm that person that always sees the
glass half full.
the glass half full. So I jump on it. I jumped right into it saying, let's do this. I rely on the physicians that know what they're going to be doing. I have trust in them, but at the same time, I have Mark, which is a very wonderful resource because he's educating himself in all this too. And to have a support group like that with other people that we are with, it just makes the whole community of us stronger.
And I'll say that, there are changes going on, which is really great. I mean, when we started with the organization that we were receiving care from, Leonard kept asking, well, what about services for me? And so I jumped all over that because there was no support groups. There was no education directed towards the patient per se. And realistically, that has evolved and changed. And now there's support groups for early onset people and even via the Alzheimer's Association, they've got a monthly group. So there has been this evolution to support the patient as well as the care partner. Because I think even in the last 5-6 years, I think there's been a shift in people with Alzheimer's aren't just gonna wither away. There's still life. And I think people are catching on to that. And that's really exciting for me. Because I think that's a big part of why Leonard does so well personally, is all of that socialization, all of that interaction, all of that involvement, I think plays a key role in him doing as well as he is.
Because if I wasn't able to use all this energy that I have,
we'd all be in trouble.
I mean, if they just decided they wanted to put me in the corner and they're going to go ahead and do whatever they're going to do, and here I am just sitting there like, a bum. And so that's not me. And that's probably a lot of other people that get just sat down. And I don't know. I can't speak on others, but there is there's a lot of life. There's a lot of life in everyone that is, here. And have to have the opportunity to be able to share that and not just be put in the corner and say, here you go, here's here's a project for you, just go ahead and go and do it. No, we need people to help us a little more, guide us a little more, and that's okay. And I think we need to catch, and I've noticed that people are more compassionate more compassionable when you do ask for help. And when you do say, can you help me out with this? They're it's a good thing. It's like, of course, come on, let's go. What are we doing? What are we working on? They let you lead. And this is what I'm finding out about people. When you can, just have just a little voice, they'll make it really big and then pull you in too. And that's really important for me.
Thank you. So quick question. And I'm just curious about people. I've seen sometimes when someone has, something like Alzheimer's disease, sometimes people treat them like they're children, like the way they talk to you. And I wonder how you deal with that, because I bet you deal with it so well and graciously that I could then like share these tips with, my patients. I'm curious.
I think for a while there was some of that, but I verbally told them that I'm okay. And they all know. And that's the thing, they all
Yeah.
know, you know.
Yeah.
Anyone that comes into a family function or any functions that we go into. But if I need help, or if I have a panic attack, or if I have something that is uncomfortable, I know who to go to, and I know who's my safe people.
Okay.
And that's very important.
I'm going to jump in and say
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
you have, for people that don't know when we're at that kind of a situation, and you will catch yourself knowing that you just told them the same thing,
Oh yeah.
and you'll catch yourself and you'll say, I know I just said that. And maybe you don't know yet, but I have Alzheimer's. So sometimes I repeat myself. And it like totally disarms the things.
Wow.
That self-awareness is amazing to me. Courage that you have to just put it out there changes the whole dynamic. I think you're kind of unique in that perspective.
And I think since I've had nothing but real reactions to it, that it helps me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm an open book. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done bad things in my life, but
I love it.
Today and the people that I surround myself with is very important. The environment that I go into with safe people. So if I'm going to be in a crowd of 250 people somewhere, I'm going to be comfortable with the people that I'm with.
Mm.
And so those, I wouldn't go in by myself because I would be a lost little puppy and probably being stepped on everywhere. Now
We set you up for success.
we do said, yeah, it is one of those things where you got to rely on the people that you hang with, and that they know and they respect you and they allow you to. Maybe there's times where I struggle a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but they're patient. I think patience is really good. Just be a little patient with me, and yeah, unless we're going down in a ship, like no, don't be patient. Just pull me by my hair. Yeah.
That's great advice. Maybe I could shift back to this Leqembi treatment and those kind of medications. So if you had advice for anyone who's considering starting these medications, looking into it, what would your advice be?
My advice would be go first and get get all the information you can about it, and also make sure that you don't have any because fortunately I don't have any side effects. I have and there's and it is quite a hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half of a trip that you got to be there with, and you want it to be comfortable, but at the same time you got to go in believing that this is truly helping you and that you are going to get better. And if you go with that belief, and you know that this is something that the scientists and everyone has come up with, you got to bring a lot of optimism. What's that word? Optimism into your to having it. So it does work.
And I would say, check it out.
Yeah.
You've got, you don't make the decision and it happens next week. There's the APOE testing to determine your risk level to ARIA. Understand that, because Leonard has one of the markers or whatever it is, so his risk increased by, I think it's 15% or something, but it increased the risk because they have one of them. And what does that mean? And how is it going to be monitored to make sure there's not a side effect? Is it any different than chemo for different kinds of cancers? I mean, would you jump on to a cancer treatment that maybe in fact has higher risks of side effects than you would for the Leqembi? So kind of weigh those things, put on a real analytical hat, talk to your neurologist and ask those questions where you have the fears. Because I wouldn't change anything. There's been times when I thought, holy crap, what did I sign up for by extending the confusion for him and stuff of the Alzheimer's? But on the other hand, I wouldn't change anything. It's
No.
still, at this point, we're really comfortable with it. So I would say, and realistically, because it's still fairly new, I think people are watching very closely your care team because they don't want anything to go wrong either. So there's some of that safety just automatically built in too.
Yeah.
Does that answer what you were looking
Yeah.
for? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, this one is okay, so it's just a little story.
Here we go, guys.
When we first, when Mark and I were, together and stuff like that, and when everything first started, I didn't know what was going on with me. So when I didn't know what was going on with me, but I was being I wasn't pulling my weight. In other words, I was, doing things and what?
We got to kind of keep it around Leqembi.
Okay, that was just a personal story.
Well, that's fine. So it sounds like you were going back to when you first started having symptoms and you knew there was something off.
Something was completely off and everything like that, and I wasn't carrying my weight in our relationship and everything like that and stuff. And so it was kind of like Mark and I were like ready to just like end this relationship.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't pulling my weight, and it was like, it's like, why am I being so lazy and so forth? And I didn't know what was going on, and Mark didn't know what was going on, and then it was like we realized that, wait a minute, there's something really actually wrong here, and then you take it from there, real brief.
Well, and it's just getting on the treatment was really a natural evolution of Leonard really wanting to get involved, to understand, and not just sit in a corner. It's kind of like, I'm going to do whatever I can. And so I was always on the lookout for what can we be doing.
Yeah. But we wanted to find out what was really happening. And then that's when we started speaking to more doctors and getting more information and everything like that. And then we finally found what was happening.
Yeah.
And then once we found out what was happening, we were able to get onto the Leqembi, and we were able to get on all these the things that I needed to do that were very helpful. Yeah, I'd be in the little shack somewhere.
Well, it's easy to look at you now and how happy and high energy you are and just think, oh, Leonard's always like that. He was the homecoming king, like all the stuff. But no, you just expressed like there was this, maybe I'd call like a dark period or like a down period. It may have lasted, who knows, like years, months, years, I don't know. And that's really scary. And it's helpful, I think, for people out there who are scared, like they think that they might have Alzheimer's or something, but they're so fearful to like pursue the evaluation. But actually look at how you've, turn that into growth and transformation, and you're doing so much and have this meaning and purpose, like with the advocacy and all the things you're doing besides and in your, social life. So it's helpful to hear that.
Yeah.
Mark, you could share what we were talking about before, like for this journey, your mantra.
A joke, and actually I'm hearing it more and more out there by other people too, but it's kind of like, I quote Dory from Finding Nemo a lot, that I just have to tell myself I got to keep swimming. I got to rest. But I mean, it's kind of like it's not a time to just not do anything, because that's not living life for me and for Leonard. So we keep swimming. And we'll keep doing that as long as we're both capable of it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really helpful to kind of pull back, and thinking of the cartoon makes me smile about it too. So
thank you for sharing that. And then I just wanted to mention for people, your advocacy work made me realize that that's such a great like alternative to a traditional support group, because many people don't like to just, commonly support groups are like you know, they can be counterproductive. Like people can leave more depressed, and there's a lot of like venting, and whereas like some of us are more, we want to take action. And so you take action and you find people to talk to about life and about what you're going through with the disease and every, you know, and other things. So in this community. And so I think that's really important, and that's going to be a huge thing moving forward.
And I talk about that too, that, you know, that kind of work and that type of stuff for us is really, and we're running out of time, but for us, it's really enriching in that it meets our socialization kind of needs. And it affords both Leonard and I some freedom because we're in an environment that is safe for both of us. So my being on alert level can drop, and Leonard is able to run around, and you know, like at the state day at the Capitol, he's all over the place. And so those events are really, really good and healthy for both of us.
Good. Excellent. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and being so open, sharing your story. Dr. Cabral at mybrainlove.com. And yeah, so thank you, everybody. This will be posted on YouTube, so you can share it with.
Can I show Bill out? Here's our little Bubba's.
Oh,
Our little Bubba's.
yay.
Yeah, he's been over here hanging with us all this
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Little
Yay, I'm so
Bill.
glad. His name's Bill?
Yeah, because he looks kind of like a billy goat.
Oh, yay. Perfect. Way to end on that. All right. Thank you, guys. All right, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You're wonderful. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Thank you.
Very
Hope to
much.
see you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye. Bye, everybody.